Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors. I'm also the founder of Connors Martial Arts in Norwood, Massachusetts. We teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and mixed martial arts. And I'm here today with my host, Dan Robin. How you doing, Dan?
Amazing. No, just
Better than a 7?
No, I did fine. I'd say about a 7.
7. You almost surprised me there for a minute. I thought you were going to be an 8. I was going to go, wow.
No, it's more like a 6.
8.
I'm a little headachy.
You're a 6. Oh, okay.
So we're in the 6 to 7 range.
So that was when you said amazing, that was in jest.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good.
I don't know if you're ever doing that amazing, right? Got to win
Amazing.
a lottery or something. Be on vacation.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Be on a beach someplace. Yeah.
And
amazing.
you know, it's my, for New Year, I'm doing a dry
January.
Dry January. No booze. No booze for January.
Dan, I'm so impressed by that. I have a lot of respect for you for doing this.
I keep bringing it up with people, and they're like, "Oh, I never do it," you know. And
so today is the 11th. So you're a full more than a third of the way through.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
You know, well, I think I've thought about this on the way in. What I was going to, that it would come up, and I might get into this might go down a path where I get myself in trouble. But I think it's pretty easy. I think it's actually pretty easy. And the reason the path might get myself in trouble is that I got to thinking, but then again, there might be some good advice in this. Tell me what you think about this.
You're afraid you're going to annoy people and offend. Everyone's offended these days for everything anyways.
When I think, and this is my take on it. I think, so when we were growing up, right, I think when you talk about anything like quitting alcohol, say.
Okay.
You had half that were sort of like, or let's even talk about someone that had problems with alcohol, right? You'd have half people that were like, on one end of the spectrum, you'd have people that are like, no good bums, like that kind of like no sympathy at all.
Okay.
And then you have the other half would be like on the other end would be like, they have an illness, they have a problem where they need our sympathy, which is good, of course. What I was thinking about is that this nice side, and this is good, but that side took over the conversation, right? Like, no one calls anyone a bum anymore, right? Like, it's sort of not
a bum.
You know what I mean?
That isn't thrown around that much.
Do you have like homeless people? Anyone call? I got approached on the streets by a bum.
That's politically incorrect.
The word is gone, which is good. It's good. People are getting sympathy.
That's a pejorative. Yeah.
But I started thinking about it, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'll come together in a second.
Take your time, buddy.
The idea like of giving sympathy, and part of that sympathy is it's really, really, things are really, really hard. Like quitting alcohol is really, really hard.
Okay.
Quitting, if you have a gambling addiction, it's really, really hard to stop. Any sort of unhealthy behavior, unhealthy eating, unhealthy relationships, it's good that society's gone for like giving sympathy, but part of the sympathy is it's really, really, really hard. And I started thinking maybe that doesn't help people in general. Like to be told all the time, quitting cigarettes, it's so hard.
So you think the danger is that it'll make it seem harder than it really is to people, and they'll be less successful at quitting?
So relating back to my dry January, which is where we came from, I thought like it's in my head. I could sort of approach, like there were times, I'd be like, I'd light a fire at home and be like, oh, I'd love to have a glass of wine. Mm. So I could be, when you ask me.
You're off wine.
Yeah. No, I am. I'd say I'd love to have a glass of wine is what I'd be thinking.
Okay.
I'd love to have one. Yeah. And so when you ask me how's it going, I could be like, oh, it's really hard. I really wanted that glass of wine. It's really tough. This month is going to be hell. It's misery. And it makes it hard. And then I thought just adjust
the self-talk makes it harder. Yeah.
Self-talk, I think it's much easier when my self-talk is like, you know what? It's not that hard. It's just easy. Like I get every now and then I feel like having a drink. I don't do it. No problem. And
I think you're onto something there.
And I relate it back because I think you said something about this in jiu-jitsu, right? So we'll bring it back to jiu-jitsu where you can, like if you're gassing out and you think to yourself, holy crap, I'm gassing out. You can really feel miserable and it can sort of snowball. And you used to say you would self-talk and say, I'm a little winded, or, like sort of saying, it's no big deal. Like I'm a little winded right now. No big deal. And you actually feel better, right?
Exactly. I can explain the exact anecdote that happened to me. I was injured, so I didn't train for a month. And when I came back, of course, I didn't have the same stamina that I would typically have. And somebody asked me, "How do you feel?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so out of shape. I'm exhausted." And then the next day, "Oh, I'm so out of shape. I'm exhausted." And then I found 2 weeks later, I was still saying it, and I caught myself. I'm like, what the hell am I saying? So, from now on, I'm going to say I feel great no matter what. And then I immediately did feel better, and I had more energy.
And even like to yourself, right? You can say,
Yeah. And then I changed my phraseology. So I think this may help athletes and jiu-jitsu players. I never said I'm tired. Because if you think about the word tired, what tired means is you need to go home and sleep for 8 hours. And you're never tired in the academy for the most part. You're winded. You need to catch your breath. That's all you need, is to just get some more oxygen into your system. And maybe you have your blood flow. So I would tell guys, never say you're tired. Only say you're a little winded. I got to catch my breath. And I think using that self-talk and that terminology helps you manage your energy better, for sure.
And I think so to extend it out to, I noticed it for me and just like not drinking for the month of January, that if I wanted to, I could sort of go down this path of like, oh, this is harder than I thought. This is tough. This is going to be a long month. And then I realized I just don't have to. I can just be like, big deal. Like every now and then I felt like I want a glass of wine, or I could pour myself a drink. I don't. A couple minutes later, I'm not even thinking about it. It's easy.
I think there's something to that self-talk stuff and the imagery too.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you one of my friends said, well, I like cake, and he wanted to stop eating cake. Did I tell you? So I said to him, I go, you know what you should do next time you think about eating cake? Take one of those little birthday hats with the elastic, put a birthday hat on, put the little elastic on your chin, sing happy birthday to yourself, and then eat your cake and smear it all over your face, you little baby. You're a grown man. What are you eating cake for anyways? And I think that little visualization exercise really makes a grown man not want to eat cake.
Just like leave a hat next to the little birthday hat next to the refrigerator. And be like,
big baby.
You're not allowed to have the cake unless you put on this hat.
Yeah, you big baby. And but that's cake. It's a little bit different.
But each of these things, I think people can really go down that hole of telling themselves how hard it is. And then if you're saying, if the whole world is telling you it is so hard to quit cigarettes, right? I mean, that's all you ever hear. It is so hard. It's harder than heroin. It's harder than anything. Tobacco, nicotine is so hard. Then you quit, and then you're like, you get one of those urges, and you're like, oh, here it is, that overwhelming urge, and I'm gonna smoke. Like I can't. I'm gonna give in. And then if you do, everyone goes, well, yeah, I don't. You're sort of not at fault. You're sort of not. It's like, well, yeah, it was overwhelming. And if you let yourself believe that, you can give in, because you're like, well, yeah, everyone says how hard it is.
Dan, now I want to play devil's advocate. Or as some people would say, a-hole. So, because
haven't you been called both?
Constantly, on a daily basis. I want to bring some nuance into this. So I understand what you're saying. Self-talk, if you build up a challenge to be bigger than it is, you're going to hurt your success, perhaps, your effectiveness. Here's the other thing. When it comes to these types of addictions, people are very different. So your personality is what psychologists would describe as very low neurotic. So you're not very emotionally variable, I think. So I think it is easier for you than somebody else. I think there are some personality types, some nervous systems that it is freaking hard. I mean, they get addicted, and they got to go all in on some program to get out of it, So the all that helps. But I think you're coming from, by nature of your genetics, just a stronger place. You know what I mean? So that little self-talk is going to help you navigate the challenge a little bit better. But then you get some people who are just raving addicts, and that little bit of self-talk is going to help, but it's still probably not going to be enough, maybe. I don't know.
Right. But it can still
I'm not an expert,
but it can still help.
Can help.
I think it might be worth, in any case, though, don't you think, a thought that constantly saying how hard it is and giving sympathy doesn't always facilitate, and I'm not sure. Again, we're not talking about. I feel, I'm not trying to tread on the ground of counselors for addicts. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is just us talking.
Right, we're not experts in addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So someone like that, heavily life-threatening drug addiction.
Right.
I'm sort of not getting into that here.
Right,
you know
because I think when people truly get addicted to a substance, there's neurological changes that occur in their system, and that neurology needs time to change to something else. And depending on the substance and the drug, it could take years, I think. That's my understanding. But like I said, I'm not an expert.
But there are people that, like, I know someone that was a gambling addict, so there's no drug involved there at all, right? And so
there's no drug, but I think there's the dopamine system. There's the nervous system is involved. And I bet the nervous system undergoes physical changes to a gambling addiction that needs to be sort of recovered or rebalanced somehow. But I think your point is that it doesn't help to overstate a challenge.
Right.
But
yeah.
I don't know if it's good to understate it either. I think you probably want to be sort of accurate, right? Because let's say you say this is easy as pie, and somebody fails. They reuse or whatever the hell. Now they're like, I can't even do this. Is easy and I can't do it. That could be too discouraging for them. You know what I mean? So I think if somebody was truly, they had a more addictive personality, that was where they were coming from, and they were addicted to something, it probably doesn't hurt to say, listen, this isn't going to be easy, but you could do it. You know what I mean? Kind of frame that challenge in a realistic way.
Right. Yeah. And I thought, like, for me, and again, so dry January, it's just sort of, it's wording though too, right? Like, it's like, so that night where I come home and I want to, it's Friday night and I want to pour myself a drink. Is that really strong urge, or is it kind of a mild urge? Like, it's sort of how you frame it in your own head. A lot of it, I think.
I think that's part of it, but I think some of it's coming from your nervous system.
So it's sort of that though too. It's sort of, maybe that's the balance, right? Like, frame it as doable in your own head.
I think so. Like, you can look at it as any kind of challenge. If you had a fight with an opponent in MMA or jiu-jitsu, you want to be confident that you're going to overcome the challenge. You're going to win, but you probably don't want to underestimate the challenge either. You probably want to have the challenge feel significant, but you're going to do even more so that you're going to come through.
Right. So getting away from addictions, back to jiu-jitsu or other things in life. I haven't thought it through. I'm thinking, like, so say you're starting a company or running a business. Is it similarly unhealthy? Is there similar help to be had by not overwhelming yourself, by saying, this is so hard, everyone knows doing a startup is impossible, and
I think so.
And 7 out of 10 fail in the first year, and all that thought, it could be realistic statistics, but you're knocking yourself out, by complaining and thinking,
I agree.
All the negativity.
I agree.
So,
yeah. Everything comes down to your behavior anyways, what you do. So if you have some challenge in front of you, what you're doing about it is the most important thing. And of course, what you do is informed by what you think, your self-talk, and all these other factors, right? But ultimately, it's what you do that's going to make the difference, right?
Yeah.
So if you were trying to build a business, you'd say, it's probably, once you decide you're going to do it, all the statistics of success and so forth, you shouldn't even consider it at all. You should just put your head down and get after it, and then reassess after a year or whatever and see what's going on then.
Yeah. And similarly, it's sort of, even if something is hard, there's a way to not go down a path of, like, sorrow about it. It's sort of like, yeah, it's hard, but so what, basically.
Right. When you're focusing on how hard it is, you're not focusing on the task at hand, right? Which is what's going to get you the result anyways. Yeah. So all that other stuff isn't helping you at all. Yeah. Yeah, it's like when you're involved in sports, you got to be in the moment and just doing it. You can't have too much internal dialogue. You can't be too circumspective. You just got to go, right?
Yeah. And things pass, right? Whether it's that moment of panic on the jiu-jitsu mat when you're running out of gas, or a desire to have a drink on Friday night. Like, I don't think, for me at least, again, maybe it depends on the person, you just need a couple minutes, and then it'll pass, like. Yeah.
I think what you're touching on, there's a larger issue here where you're saying there's some subtle things that we can do, like self-talk, little things that we can do that can kind of change our trajectory. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
can influence how we're doing. And then there's the question of, what if you're going, 180 degrees in the wrong direction? These little influences aren't enough, maybe. You know. I was listening to a podcast, and this guy David Buss, who's a famous evolutionary psychologist. You know him?
Yeah.
And I thought this was interesting, Dan. So a lot of these evolutionary psychologists think you're born with a personality, and that's your personality for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a stable person, you're stable. If you're wacky, you're wacky. However you want to characterize it. And once you become an adult, you really can't change your personality. But there's one exception. Do you know what the exception is?
No.
Basically trauma. Like something dramatic happens enough to affect your nervous system that you can change your personality. And what do you think? I think there's a truth to that, because I know people. I know a guy who was a complete addict as a young person, just like bouncing off the walls, addicted to everything that he could get his hands on, and any amount of self-talk wasn't going to help this guy. I mean, just like out of the gate, you could tell. And then things went really bad for him. He recovered, and now he's been sober for like 30 years, and he has a completely different personality. And so now I'm wondering, because of this, what this guy David Buss said, he must have had some traumatic experiences in the throes of his addiction that changed his nervous system.
You hear about that a lot. I hear about it with addiction, that story of an abrupt change almost, like, and then I never had another drink, or like, and then I never touched it again. And that, I hear that. And
I think it's beyond psychological. I think it's neurological. It's like PTSD. It's like such a trauma that it changes their nervous system.
Right. But I think always it's a lot of little victories though too can also, I don't know if it has to be an atom bomb dropping, right? I mean,
well, if you're talking about changing your personality, the fundamental architecture of your brain and your nervous system that gives you your personality, I think you could probably tweak it, right? But if you're going to really change it, I don't know. I have no idea. But this guy is seeming to suggest that you need something traumatic.
Yeah, but also I agree with that.
But we know trauma will change your nervous system, change your personality.
Yeah.
Because we see the negative result of that.
Yeah, all over the place. Yeah. But I think I agree with that. But there are people that change behavior without totally changing their personality, right? There are people that can stop gambling and not have a fundamental huge change, right? I mean, that's one way to do it, but sometimes people just kind of wean themselves off in some way, right?
Yeah, maybe they're just in a different position on the bell curve of their personality, that they're on that edge where they're close enough to becoming a non-addict by, just some more modest changes.
Yeah. But so, can I have one more thought about this?
Yeah.
So my dry January, I'm thinking about parlaying it into something which has the potential to make me basically like semi-miserable forever. So that's
Let me hear the parlay.
So that tell me if this isn't. I think it might be a bad idea. Might be a good idea. I'll put it to you. I'm thinking about when January ends.
Okay.
Being like setting up another goal for February.
Okay.
Basically, totally different.
Totally different.
Being like, say, like no sugar in February.
No cocaine.
And think about something.
I think that's an awesome idea.
But part of it, if you think about it, I'll be like, oh my God, no sugar. But I can have a glass of wine. Like, do you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like I'll feel like it might make easier whatever I want to do in February, because I don't have to do the thing in January anymore.
Yeah, you don't have a sense of total deprivation.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, well, at least I'll go have a glass of wine.
I think that's a really cool idea, Dan.
You know what I mean?
I think you should do that.
So I'll be like slightly unhappy forever this way.
because you're gonna tear your 7 down to a 6.
Yeah, that's basically. and as another side goal, I think the back of my mind is maybe you don't have to go all the way back on any of these things. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think you're going to bounce back that hard.
Yeah. I was saying that, I'd spend the first 10 days of February on a bender. Wake up in a Tijuana jail.
I don't
I'd
think
be like, "What? Hey, I didn't drink all January. You can't really."
Do you think that's what would happen? I don't think so, right?
No.
I think you'll come back and you'll be like right on par from where you were before, maybe slightly under.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think the goal is to be under, right? Where you say, okay, now I've kind of got into my brain what it means to just have a weekend where you don't have a glass of wine, so you can do it again if you want to. And then if I don't have sugar for February, you sort of break that. Then I start eating it again, but
I think what also will happen is you're going to develop an awareness of these substances. So you're going to be like, I think if you're just walking along through life and just drinking whenever you feel like drinking and whenever it works, you kind of lose track of what it is and what's going on, and that you're actually putting something in yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then when you take it away for a month and you start putting it back, ooh, this is like a real thing,
Yeah, right.
The same with the sugar. You'll suddenly realize, wow, I was eating a lot more sugar than I thought I was eating. It's in everything that's in a package essentially has sugar in it and preservatives that are pretty unhealthy.
I might not even do. You've kind of mocked me for this before. I might not do like a pure, like what I call not having any sugar.
Okay.
You call having a lot of sugar. like I'm not sure I want to cut all the sugar. I might cut like foods that have the word sugar in them, like sugar wafers,
sugars. Yeah.
But start there. But honestly, for me, like, so if I have a meal now, lunch or dinner,
okay,
I'll eat. Say I have a sandwich for lunch. I'll right after that sandwich feel like, oh, I gotta have like I feel my body craving, like cookies or
right. Because you typically do that.
Yeah. I feel it. I can really
you are craving
like,
it. That's your nervous system because you've trained your nervous system to anticipate that sugar coming in. And so you're actually getting a physical crave. It's anticipating it.
Right.
So it's already releasing insulin because it's like, here's now where Dan eats his cookies.
Right.
So when you don't eat it, your body's like,
I can feel it for sure.
What the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, you're supposed to be eating a cookie right now. So that you need time to make that adjustment. Yeah.
I know. I've said I felt there's times where I'm like, I'm full.
So you're basically going to do a no cookie February.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like no sweet food, whatever, no candy, cookies, cake, whatever, that kind of sugar.
I think that's a great idea.
I know that I need to cut out like it's,
If you cut out all sugar, you can't have the sandwich because you can't have the bread.
Exactly.
And
bread,
the
pasta, all this kind of stuff. I think
it.
I'll leave it. But at least I think still at the end of that month, I'll be able to eat and not be like, now I need dessert.
Dan, you won't miss it at all because desserts.
At first I will.
At first you will. But at the end you'll be like, why was I eating that stuff for anyways? Yeah. Yeah, it's totally unnecessary.
So that's probably my February.
That's a very good idea.
Think of something for March.
All right.
And you know what I mean? And I think it might make it easier to be like, so say March comes along and I'm doing something or other. It might be like no dairy or something that I don't know what.
Okay.
But then you're like, yeah, but I can have a cookie now and I can have my glass of wine and like, you know what I mean? And again, say I don't go all the way back. I'm easing
Dan,
all these things
it's hard for you
down.
not to have cookies because you look great and you're fit. So it's like, how's a cookie hurting you, right?
Yeah, any of this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I don't. It's sort of like we all have friends by now that like had some real trauma in their life from alcohol, say.
Yeah.
And
it's about half of my childhood friends.
Yeah.
About 50, 70%. Yeah.
And I just had none, So it's sort of.
I think we've come to realize you might be from another planet.
No, there's no consequences to things I do.
Yeah.
But which makes it harder. But I think I can ease these things down in just one thing per month. Got to come up with a goal of like something.
That's a great idea.
Also, like I said, I think I said last podcast, it's like flexing your willpower.
Right.
Keeping your willpower in shape. Be like depriving yourself.
Challenging yourself a little bit.
Because I think most people, myself included, just kind of just go through life. Like you said, like if I want a drink, I have a drink. If I want a cookie, I have a cookie. If I want to eat like a pig, I eat like a pig. And
you're kind of sleepwalking through life. It's not as deliberate as when you do what you're talking about. I think it's a great idea.
All right. I mean, a few months in, I might lose track, but then I guess I could do repeats too.
Well, we have this podcast, so we'll keep you on track.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have people send suggestions in for March. What you got to do in March? Yeah.
But I have a thing of
I got to walk on my hands for March. Yeah.
I also wanted to do that thing where you run at a wall and then kind of flip off it. Does that count?
Like parkour?
Yeah.
You should like live as an Amish person for March. Something like that, yeah.
I could think of, maybe some kind of less TV or something.
Now we're talking.
No TV though? I don't know. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
We talked about this last time too. I'm going to only set goals that I'm going to do. So this like,
okay.
So like checking in about, it's not checking in about dry January is not like, have you drank? It's like, I'm not going to. Like I know how my willpower is.
You already decided. Yeah.
I decided.
Yeah.
And so.
And if it sucks, it sucks. You don't care.
Yeah. So I'm only going to pick goals that I'm like, I'm not going to pick a goal that I'm sort of in the back of my mind thinking like, well.
Yeah, I'm going to do a silent meditation for 2 hours a day every day. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
If it's not going to happen, I'm not going to pick it. But that meditation could be one, right? Like
I think you should totally
an
do
hour
it
or something.
Actually, I'm a little afraid if you start meditating regularly. I don't know what's going to happen. You'll become even more invulnerable than you are now.
Yeah.
That's frightening. I would totally suggest meditation.
That could be. Maybe I'll do that for February.
I do my Wim Hof meditation every day. I don't even know if it's really a meditation. It's more a breathing exercise, but I love it. I do it for 20 minutes. I feel so much better.
And you started that. It's not like a lifelong thing for you, right?
No, I think I started it about 3 years ago. Yeah. But
what's the effect?
I haven't had a cold or flu since I started doing it. Who the hell knows if that's just a coincidence. I have way less anxiety.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I'm a highly conscientious person, so sometimes I start getting open loops in my head. And I start thinking about things again and again, over and over and over again. And I find that when I'm feeling a little anxious and I got one of those open loops, I might look at my journal of Wim Hof and I'm like, oh, yeah, I haven't done this in 5 days. So then I do my Wim Hofing again, and it just helps me.
Clear. It's like a reset.
I think what it does is it affects your autonomic nervous system and your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and those responses. So my sympathetic nervous system comes down. It gives me a parasympathetic response, so I'm just calmer, and yeah, it's just everything's easier to roll with. Yeah, and it supposedly helps your immune system. So,
yeah. Speaking of which, I got a bad cold as soon as I started my dry January.
I know. I could see that. Yeah.
As soon as I think my body was relying on like a steady stream of alcohol to kill like the pathogens.
It was sterilizing.
It was sterilizing me. As soon as I cut it, I'm sick. So I don't have any great claims. Like, it's not like, and I feel, I'm just not, I don't know. I think people like drama, and I'm not like a drama person. Like I don't have any claims like, and I feel better than I have ever.
Amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel the same, but
your skin is just as clear as it was before. I have exactly the same energy as I had before.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping exactly the same as I slept before.
Yeah, I mean, you wake up feeling a little better on like weekend mornings if you've had nothing to drink, as opposed to
if you're hungover, then you're dehydrated. That's not good. Yeah.
But no big change. But I still think it's worth doing.
I think it is.
Try something each month.
I hope you inspire some of our listeners to try something like this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not just do one thing. Maybe
I think for some people, it would be even a better benefit than you. Like somebody from the planet Earth could do this, and it could they could feel amazing.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
Yeah. I was thinking you said Wim Hof. I could do that, like cold showers for a month. Can you imagine then, like the next month, how good it would feel to just have a regular,
not have to do a cold shower?
Yeah, to just feel like I can get in a regular shower.
Yeah.
So then I could, whatever I'm depriving myself, I'd be like, at least I can take a regular shower.
Yeah. That would feel good, right? That'd be like a luxury.
Like if I'm going to get up every day and run, but then I get to come back and get in a shower.
That'd be good.
I'd look forward to the whole thing. So I don't know. I think it might not be a bad idea. Bad idea, like I said, in that I will now, instead of doing whatever I want, be like some aspect of my life will be miserable.
But you're choosing it. It's your decision.
Yeah.
So in a way, you're doing more of what you want because you decided it. So it's just not your automatic system sleepwalking through life, doing whatever the hell it is that does. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, in the back of my mind is to not let everything bounce 100% back. You know, like not.
Yeah.
If I quit cookies, don't be like March 1st, like big thing, you know, stuffing my face for a month.
Put the birthday hat on and smear chocolate chips all over your face. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to leave a birthday hat just waiting for March 1st. I can't wait to put on that hat. So that's where I'm at.
That sounds great. I'm proud of you. Without that, I don't mean to sound condescending. I respect that. I admire you.
I haven't done it yet, but
I think it's awesome. Yeah, you're going to do it.
You can tell him. You can tell I'm going to do it, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to.
Dan, you're not a person typically that says he's going to do something and doesn't follow through. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident.
I think that doesn't mean that I do everything, but it means if I'm not sure, I'll probably say I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be like, I'm going to try. I don't know if I'll do that. But if I lock in, like, okay, dry January, it's going to happen. You know, like, so.
You gave it a name, dry January.
Even this, I said I have an office party on the 22nd, and I might have a drink at that. I said it before in December. Yeah. And so I even tried to, you know.
You put in a contingency plan.
Yeah, so that I don't have to break it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. That's my plan.
Love it, Dan.
That's my idea.
Dan, do you want to do what we planned for the podcast here?
Yeah.
I mean, we got some time.
Out of time, but I mean, we could extend it.
I think we got at least 20 minutes or so.
All right.
So, you came to me with these dark truths you found.
I like the dramatic heading. It was like, what are the dark truths of life? Something like that.
Right. Here, it says here are the few dark truths that I hope will jolt you awake and motivate you to make changes, to do what it takes to live your version of a great life.
Right. So that was the heading, the dramatic heading.
Okay.
And I skimmed it and realized it touches on some things that we talk about on here.
Love it. Let's.
And I was like, let's go through. And
he's got how many dark truths here? 22. We never make it through these lists.
No. We'll just. Go.
That's a theme now. Dark truths. It's something intriguing about darkness, right? People like that.
Yeah, it's the dark truth.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think they're probably just. You don't have to call them that, right? They're just.
Well, I wanted to know who the heck this guy is, and I asked you, and I didn't get an answer. You're like, I don't know, some guy. I'm like, so why do I want to listen to this?
I looked it up, and he was like, you know, I would say the only thing giving it credibility is like coming to the top of Quora is sort of like gets a ton of upvotes, right?
All righty.
So a lot of people are giving it upvotes. The guy, I Google searched his name, the guy who wrote it.
Yeah.
And he didn't seem to be.
So we can anonymously criticize him. We won't call him out. All right. I'm all up for that. And I actually prepared. I have a new T-shirt coming out.
Up here.
Prepare right, podcast right.
Oh, that's right. Aren't you? And isn't if people give a review?
People give a review, we're going to pull a name out of a hat and give them a T-shirt. We actually got 2 new reviews this week, even before we started the contest.
Are they eligible?
No.
They're not.
Those were for the contest. No. You're only eligible now. If they go back on and write another review, then they're eligible.
And so to your point, there's a chance if you write the review,
you're the only one.
The only person.
Right. Well, if you did it if we had the contest last week, you would have had a 50-50 chance.
Right.
Pretty sweet.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got a pretty good shot at this T-shirt.
Pretty good shot at T-shirt. All right. Enough of the T-shirts and the reviews. I want to hear your thoughts on this, Dan.
Right.
Do you want to go down the list one by one, or do you want to cherry pick?
Let's just go down the list.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me what you think about number 1.
All right. Should I read it, or you're going to read it?
You read it.
All right. No one else can give you the exact answers you need to be happy and successful.
You know what my note is for this?
What?
Meh. M-E-H. Meh.
I thought about this. I'll say this about it. I agree with that. That fits with my personality in that I don't gravitate toward heroes and idols and role models so much myself. You know,
I think, and everyone's in a unique position, so they're their advice and like what you should eat and all this other stuff. You have to tailor it to yourself, of course.
Right. I think one thing, I've said this before, that it's like the one piece of wisdom I've maybe picked up ever, but that I picked up since like I was 40. So it sounds like actual wisdom I learned later, which is to listen to everybody and listen to all kinds of advice. And what I mean is this: I used to be much quicker to, like, if someone said something that I thought sounded stupid, I'd be like, this guy's an idiot. Done. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, no more listening. Or like reading a list of 22 truths of life.
Okay.
Like the first one says something meh, and then I'm like, list is stupid. It's done.
Yep.
You know, and I used to do that with everything, and I sort of learned to like relax a little.
Okay.
And be like a little less judgmental, and be like, maybe the list, maybe this list of 22 things has one thing that is actually pretty useful for me.
Yeah.
You know, or like maybe this guy, you know, I don't buy a lot of the things he says, but
maybe
one thing, just
inexpensive
one thing.
way to test the theory that he has or something.
Yeah. Or just one thing he said in the middle. Like, I think
that's probably good. What you're really doing is you're separating the ideas from the person.
Yeah.
Which is very important. And I think most people do not do that.
It's hard.
Yeah. So somebody has one good idea. These gurus come along and they say, yeah, we should be nice to each other. And then he's a genius and they start following him, and then he can say anything. You know, we all have to wear green clothes and shave our heads. Well, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. Separating the idea from the person. That's great advice.
Yeah. And I used to be I used to say with like, there could be a movie, like a comedy, that you're like, this is the stupidest comedy I ever saw. And then the middle be like, that joke made me laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that one bit was funny. And, you know, and I'll say like, there was a funny scene. Like, what do you mean that movie was not funny at all? And it's like, yeah, but I know, but that one scene. And that's sort of like how I apply it, like, to people. It's sort of like, it's like, you know, this guy had really good advice, and they're like, that idiot? And I'm like, well, no, I know. I know maybe he's not all the time, but he had one thing.
He got one thing now. Yeah.
Like, and I think most people don't do that. I didn't used to.
No.
I think it's sort of like you said, or in the reverse direction, everything this guy says is smart, everything this guy says is stupid, and it can be, you know,
it's not that uniform.
Direction. Yeah.
But very smart people tend to be more right than very dumb people.
Well, yeah, there's percentages.
Yeah, definitely.
But I would say even the people I most admire, most think have good ideas, you know, they can come up with something that I'll be like, I don't agree with that. Or look at, you know, we never touch on this, but like with politics now, it's which side is right. Everything here, everything there. And you should be able to pick and choose among ideas. Like,
correct.
Like I tend to agree with this side or this side, but then again,
right. Once you start agreeing with sides, now you're not even thinking about the issue. You're just going along with the party, where you're saying it makes more sense to look at each issue individually and decide. Yeah.
Most people don't do that or can't do that or something,
right.
But this is all of a piece. Like, these are all sort of different examples, but of a piece of evaluating each piece of advice or piece of information individually, instead of taking the source and being like, this is my hero. Did I tell? So I don't, do you have like heroes? See, for me, I wouldn't say.
You're one of my heroes, Dan.
That's a valid hero, actually. that's a pretty strong.
Do I have heroes? Gee whiz. Sadly, I don't have a lot of heroes. I kind of like Wim Hof, although, you know, he's doing one limited thing, but I'm realistic like you, so I don't like to put people on a pedestal because, you know, he could be doing something wacky somewhere that I don't think is cool.
So I don't know if I told you this, but my kids go to a pediatrician near here, and they have this way at the pediatrician, like, you have to fill out forms when you're there.
Yeah.
And
I love the forms.
Yeah, but the forms will be like, for the one I go to, they're all like, they go away from medicine. You know what I mean? So they're sort of like, things I understand they ask. Like, they'll be like, do you spend more than 6 hours a day on social media? You know, something like this.
Who are they asking this of? Of your child?
Yeah.
Okay.
Me and them. Like
You too.
I fill it out, and it depends on the age, like
Right.
mostly we both fill it out. And even that, I'm a little like, well, what are you going to do about it? Like you're the, mostly I feel a little like I'm here for,
It's intrusive.
You've got vials of like medicine, and you've
Right.
got like, that's what I'm here for. You've got a machine that measures blood pressure.
Right.
That's why I'm here. I'm not here to talk to you about, and they'll be like, do you have, at least 6 servings of vegetables per day, and things like that, where I'm like 6, but one of the things on there, so each thing I'm a little like rolling my eyes a little, but one of the questions is, do you talk to your children about your heroes?
About your heroes?
Yeah. Like, this is my pediatrician office. Like, I'm sort of like, that question.
It's kind of a touchy-feely place you're going on.
Yeah, I was like, I always thought it was ridiculous. I was like, do I talk to my children about my heroes?
Jack Nicklaus?
And that's when Batman? I was like, what? Sort of like, what do you want me to, yeah. I just found the question ridiculous on a few levels. One is, I'm like, well, who are you to ask me if I...
Yeah, what are they going to do with that information?
Yeah. And then it's like, you don't know me too. Like, and I started thinking about the question. I was like, in that office, there's probably 5 acceptable heroes, right? It's going to be, you better say Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, or Gandhi. I think maybe it's only those 3. Who else is even, or my dad, like things like that.
My dad.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think those might be the only 4 acceptable answers. Like, I don't even know who you could.
Well, people used to like Mother Teresa, but then I've heard some negative things about her too. So yeah, I have no idea what's acceptable.
Wait, what about no, I can't even think. Who would else be Mandela? Mandela would be one.
Yeah.
But so, all right, 5 or
hero.
6.
Yeah.
Anyone else, they'd be like, I don't know. If you said Babe Ruth, they'd be like, who? They'd be like, well,
You did drink a lot.
Yeah. Babe Ruth, so I'm sort of, I just found it like they're steering you in a direction, and they're going to be judgmental, and you can't be.
They're definitely going to be judgmental.
And then, or what if you name someone, you're like, President Rutherford B. Hayes. They'd be like, oh, what? You can't. Who are you talking? You can, like, Grover Cleveland is a hero. They'd be like, who?
Red flag.
What? Yeah, exactly. Like, little note in the notebook. Like, there's like, you can't do anyone probably obscure. You can't do anyone that kind of shaky.
I totally know what you're talking about. I hate that feeling that I'm being eyeballed by a bureaucracy and judged and summed up. One time my son was in high school, I think, or junior high, and he didn't want to do a test. So he told them he was sick or something, and I had to drive into school to pick him up. And he wasn't sick at all. And then the nurse was like grilling me, what did he have for breakfast? Does he eat breakfast? And I'm like, yeah, breakfast. He didn't have breakfast. He didn't eat some completely sugar-laden cereal. That's his problem.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's just so offensive.
Yeah, like
so
if he
annoying.
had Captain
Like,
Crunch,
you look at the kid, he's perfectly physically healthy and doing terrific. And yeah, he didn't have his Captain Crunch. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I'm an evil, awful parent and neglectful because I didn't give him Captain Crunch in the morning. I mean, it's so stupid. Don't get me started with the whole nutrition thing that they're all about, right? You have to drink orange juice, which is insane. Milk, yeah.
Yeah, it's all
sugary, yeah.
And so I sort of feel like, so that's how I felt about it. I'm sort of felt like, just don't, why are you even, but it also made me realize I don't have heroes. Like, who am I going to say? You know what I mean? Aquaman. He's pretty, like, it seems so it made me realize I don't do it. Because, that, like, so with the doctor, I sort of defiantly write, like, so it would say, did you give him 6 helpings of vegetables per day? And I'd be like, no. And I'd be like, did you give him?
Did you?
Exactly. 6. Like, yeah. So I'd confront them. So half of our meeting would then be like, I noticed you said no. And I'd be like, no, I didn't give him 6.
What kid is having 6 servings of vegetables a day?
It's like, what's happening is parents are lying. It's obvious what I'm supposed to say. I think they even had, like, correct answers on the left and, like, wrong ones on the right for their ease. You know what I mean? So, like, they would just look down, like, on the right and be like, you said no for vegetables and no for heroes, and so they could tell, like, things you were doing wrong as a parent.
Ray Kroc is my hero. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I only eat hamburgers.
So I realized, though, So then I'd say no, and they'd say, well, you might want to, what about, and they'd name some of these people. What about,
No, they
Gandhi.
suggested people to you?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
They'd say like,
that really happened? You said no?
They'd say, yeah. They'd say, just either someone from your personal life or like, Gandhi or, like things. And I'd feel like Gandhi, like she sounds like a great guy, but like, he's not a personal hero of mine. That's not.
So
this could be the
weird,
podcast to be like, yeah, Dan was bad mouthing Gandhi, and but it just seems like he's not. I don't. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't have heroes. I don't do.
I would be annoyed if I was a doctor's appointment and then they're grilling me about Gandhi. Yeah, that would annoy me. Yeah.
But I think I'm not sure if overall. So back to our point. Like I don't even know if this is bad advice. Like maybe people operate differently than me, and they want a guru or a hero.
I think a lot of people
or someone
do.
to just tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And they don't really. So this advice, it says no one gives you the exact answers. You need to be happy and successful. And for me, I agree with it in that if you interpret it as like there's all this text under it that I don't know what they're talking about, like stuff that I don't agree. It says like at some point a voice inside your head will cry out enough. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about there, but
yeah,
but
yeah, he started saying like people aren't doing what they want.
Yeah.
I think everybody's basically doing what they want. That's nonsensical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think people need to be encouraged. I think if anything, people are doing too much of what they want.
That's what I think. I totally agree. How everyone says, you should be more open-minded. Most people are too open-minded. Yeah. They should be a little bit more closed-minded because they're believing any nonsense that comes by them. Oh, yep, I'm open-minded. Yeah.
That's a funny thought. Do less of Yeah, it's like 70% of marriages end in divorce, and they're like, you guys should be doing more of what you want. Like it's like,
yeah,
you don't
that's
get to
just
go.
nonsense.
But if you take the point as you like that no one else gives you all the answers you need to be happy and successful, then I agree with it because that resonates with me.
I think it depends on the person. Some people are so disagreeable they need to do less of what they want, like you're saying. Yeah. And some people are such pushovers, maybe they should assert themselves a little bit more and do more of what they want. It really depends on the person, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like all advice, it's very hard. Or like going through a list of things, it's not going to apply to. How could it apply to everybody? How could any point or any advice apply to everybody?
Yeah.
And that goes for any advice that comes out on this podcast, right? It's like
except for this podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Dan, I think you should start encouraging people to make me their hero and their guru.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm going to do it, Tony Robbins. I'm not your guru.
Yeah. Well, Tony Robbins is a good example, right? We talked a little bit about Tony Robbins once, where I saw the Netflix special.
Yeah, I saw that.
And my impression was, and again, now there's probably Tony Robbins fans listening who are like, going to get mad, but
they're punching their cell phones.
Yeah. But what I saw him doing is, he has this he has an audience, not only they paid like $3,000 or something to be there. So
they paid that much.
Yeah. Like a particular type of person, that really has him as a guru.
Oh yeah.
Or else they're not going to pay it.
They're fans. They're raving fans.
And
basically.
Then what I saw is he'd walk up, he's like 6'6" or something. He's a huge dude.
Yeah.
And then there'd be a couple, and he'd kind of size them up like any sharp person could do. Like maybe you have like,
Dan, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Beyond him sizing them up, all those people fill out questionnaires before the thing, and then his people look at it, and then they can tell him in his earpiece, this woman, whatever, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Right. So so he has even more information.
Yeah.
And then but then I think what would happen is you get like, say you had like, I don't even know if this is a literal example, but it's the kind of thing, like a tough looking guy and a mousy looking woman. And and he said they'd stand up as a couple, and he would basically get around to being like, I think we know what the problem is. It's this guy, like the guy.
It's the guy.
Yeah, guy. And she'd be like, nah, well, nah. And he'd be like, I think, pressuring her.
Well, what they do
and it's a big crowd looking, and he'd be like, is that really true? Is that really true? And, and sort of force them into a place where then they go, it is true. And he'd be like, see, like as if he was.
Well, that's a cult tactic, Dan.
Yeah.
So if I say, Dan, your problem is blah, 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 and you go, no, I don't think so. Well, see, the resistance you have is evidence that that's your problem.
Right.
So it's just cult speak nonsense
And
to browbeat people into a
And if you have the
position.
whole cult surrounding being like,
Yeah.
you really need to
He
address
did that
this.
one cool thing where he took a woman out of the audience, and she's like talking about her relationship. She's got some kind of boyfriend, and he goes, take out your phone, call him right now, break up with him. And he has her break up with the guy over the phone. This poor schlub is like at work, like, what? What's going on?
Can we talk later?
Yeah. She goes, no, Tony says we're done. And
she's on like a stage, right? Like there's like
she's
thousands of people
yeah.
listening.
But some people, here's my take on it, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Some people said, wow, how could he do that? That's really irresponsible. And then other people said, well, he had the questionnaires. He knew that their relationship was rocky. The obvious answer is she's a kook.
Yeah.
Anybody that would want that attention from Tony Robbins and then just call and break up with their boyfriend like that in front of this audience is a kook.
Yeah.
And he's only doing that guy a favor to
Yeah.
get this maniac out of his life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. Tony Robbins is like, I just saved that guy years of aggravation, maybe.
Yeah, I would say if you're dating someone that's willing to get on the phone and break up with you in an auditorium at a Tony Robbins thing, you probably
That's somebody
You
you're
don't
not
need-
going to
you
build
don't-
a relationship
you don't
with.
need to go saving that
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, that's not worth saving. Definitely not.
So I was not like Tony. Like I would not.
He's
be,
a showman. It's
Yeah.
all a show. He could be
Yeah.
swallowing fire or doing whatever the hell he's
Right.
doing. Yeah,
And that stuff again, it doesn't resonate with me. Like I'm not. I would not be a good audience member there.
No.
And but to that point, right? Like I could watch that special in an hour in and be like, well, he has a good point. That one point,
he
know
does.
what I mean? Like,
He actually
that's what I
has
was saying
several good
earlier,
points,
like,
probably.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So as much as I'm rolling my eyes at the overall thing, I can still listen. I can
right.
still
You
hear what
see
he's
the
saying.
cult tactics and the show business and the nonsense, and that makes you roll your eyes. Other people, that gets them really excited,
Right.
and gets them to buy in. And then you see the other parts where he's talking about goal setting or whatever. Yeah, he probably has some very effective tactics to use that can help you. So that's
Right.
great. Yeah. But I do think the one thing that these gurus have, Dan, and heroes is they stimulate people. They get people riled up, and he can get people to act. And there's value in that. And it seems like the only way to get people riled up and to act is through some showmanship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Through these tactics that don't work on you.
Right.
But some part of the population, I don't know, 50%, 60%, what percentage? It seems to really work with them.
80%.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I mean, he might really help a lot of people too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I have to admit that too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they should break up, like that, or maybe,
Well, that's definitely they should break up. That's a no-brainer. That was easy. Yeah. But I think most people, their problem is they are sitting on the couch. They don't have any energy. They're not stimulated enough. We talked about this before. I think it's in this Dark Truths list somewhere about doing stuff. People who get out there and do a lot of things, they enjoy a certain amount of success in life. No success comes from you when you're sitting home on your couch. If you're out there doing a lot of stuff, even if you're not super efficient or effective, you're going to get some return for that,
Yeah.
So if you're going to default someplace on the spectrum of being too active or not active enough, you're way better at being too active.
Right. Some of the most successful people I know just have a motor burning all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like they just work all the time, and there seems to be a huge payoff. I think I've said to you before, I think that high energy, get up and get things done is more effective than even being like capable, like being smart, or
Definitely.
being, like,
Because everything else is just potentiality. It's just sitting there. It possibly can make something happen. But, yeah.
do you think people out there that, there's a lot of people out there that sitting there with the potential and they're just not acting on it, right? They're
Absolutely.
not cranking it up.
I think that's going to be one of my New Year's resolutions, Dan, is to write more. I think I should write for 1 hour a day, no matter what, whether I publish it or not. I was inspired by the show Hamilton. That was a big scene in it. Like he's writing all the time, right?
Yeah.
They made it sound like he was some kind of maniac that would write 12 hours a day or something. But yeah, getting stuff done, I think, is super important.
Right. And are you going to rap too, inspired by Hamilton? Like an hour a day?
I'm going to dress in colonial clothes for the month of February.
One aspect of Hamilton for each month. The dancing in August.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time.
Right, we got through
Do you
one.
want to break up with your wife live on the podcast? Dan,
no,
take your
no,
phone out now.
no.
Call her.
Yeah,
I'm your guru. I'm not your guru.
See, the fact that you're saying no.
That resistance tells me that there's something there.
But I think there's a take-home point, though, that, you know, we're saying no. A lot of the show's been like sort of skeptical of heroes and idols. That does not apply to us, though. Like as heroes and idols.
Right.
We are appropriate heroes and idols for anyone listening.
And to be honest, Dan, I think I do have some heroes, and I want heroes. I want somebody to. When I saw Hamilton, that was inspiring to me. So I guess I kind of do have some heroes, and I wish I had more because I like the inspiration. I like that excitement that it can give you. You don't need it, but I think I need it, to get up and get going. Dan, we made it through one of the dark truths. It's just typical when we have these lists. But I was prepared, so I feel good about it.
You were prepared to talk about all 22.
Yeah, I have notes about all 22.
Maybe we'll go through some dark truths next time.
I'll tell you, I'll comment on truth number 20. That'll be the last one. So 20 says, when you spend your time worrying and overthinking everything, you're simply using your imagination to create things you don't want. Then he writes underneath that, Nuff said. I'm out.
Yeah.
Anyone that says Nuff said, what is he, Mark Twain? Is this the
Stan Lee.
1880s? Nuff.
If you're not Stan Lee or Mark
Never
Twain.
used the word Nuff, N-U-F-F.
Yeah.
That just ruined this whole list for me. Yeah, I just did what you did. Nuff? He said Nuff? Throwing the whole list out. So that was my thoughts on
Mostly you're
note
just
20.
your thoughts involve him saying Nuff
Nuff.
said.
That's all I needed to hear. Completely
You can't
annoyed
take
me.
advice from anyone that would say Nuff.
Anyone that uses the word Nuff is out.
That's pretty good advice.
Not
right
my
there,
hero,
right?
not my guru. Right. That's
Unless you're Stan Lee or Mark Twain.
exactly. Stan Lee uses Nuff? I
Yeah,
didn't know
Nuff
that.
said. Well, he did.
He did, yeah. Okay, Dan, we are at the end of another awesome podcast. I can't believe we keep pumping
That
out
went
this
fast,
great
man.
stuff, man. Yeah, and I'm proud of. Should I say I'm proud of you? No, I admire your sober January, and I think you have a great idea. I can't wait to see what happens in February. No cookies, basically.
Right, and I wanted to bring it up so that you remind me, because that's my one thing. If I
Lock
forget
you
to
in.
do it,
Yeah, a little social
I just
pressure.
I could have this great idea and then be like halfway through February eating a cookie, like, oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, I forgot my. Like I could just forget.
We're not
So as
going
long
to
as you
We're going to
remind
hold
me.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you to it for sure. So, folks, please subscribe and review this podcast. We have 6 reviews. Thank you for those reviewers. We'll mention you next time. And share this. Tell your friends about it. And we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.